Hey there, this is going to be a new video concept that's going to be called by CAPE-CCIDENT or Design. These will be videos where we ramble on about character design elements. Join us as we nerd out on some of the nuances and our nitpiks of the super stylized world of capes and cowls. And for the first video in this series, I thought I'd reflect on which of two particular live-action Jokers gets the last laugh, or rather the last smile, when it comes to their unique, grinny designs. We're going to be reflecting and comparing the significance and symbolism of the smiles of Heath Ledgers' Joker from The Dark Knight and Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck as he was presented in the first Joker and its sequel, Folie A Deux, and how both tip their hat to the OG Joker design from the comics. I'd like to cap things up by stating that I'm more of a Marvel guy, and the Batman segment of the DC universe is really the only area of that universe that I'm reasonably familiar with. But even there, I'm limited. So, if there are any holes in my presentation of the legacy material, I plead ignorance in advance. The Joker is also my most favorite villain across all media, and I don't think Marvel has a character that matches the character in substance and style, despite what some Marvel fans might propose. But anyway, to kick off this smirky comparison, we should maybe take a brief glimpse into the past to a line in Alan Moore's 1988 classic, The Killing Joke, where the Joker states, "If I'm going to have a past, I'd prefer it to be multiple choice." And there is a kind of meta-irony in this statement, as the three men credited with the creation of the Joker, Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and Jerry Robinson, all have differing accounts of how the character was eventually conceived. But despite the different accounts from the three, the one constant in all their testimonies is that Bill Finger showed an image of actor Conrad Veidt as the character Gwynplaine of the 1928 film, The Man Who Laughs. The character is a man who bears the facial disfiguration of a permanent grin, which apparently is an actual condition known as a rictus grin. Jerry Robinson drafted a sketch of a Joker playing card based on this character concept, and this became the initial design concept for the Joker. The eventual in-universe explanation for the Joker's signature disfigurement was revealed in issue 168 of Detective Comics, where the Joker confesses to Batman that it was an accident where he falls into a pool of chemicals that not only warped his appearance, but also was the cause of his insanity. This Reddit thread debates whether or not the Joker always had his white face and rictus grin prior to this issue. I'm not sure, so I'll link the thread in the description if any of you want to dive into it yourselves. But the aspect of the Joker's design concept that we're focusing on for the purposes of this aesthetic analysis is in the idea of his permanent smile, because both Heath's and Phoenix's Joker from Joker 1 both deviate from the source material, but still manage to craft a portrayal of the Joker that still kind of honors the essence of the Joker character, and in some cases might even transcend the original, in my opinion. The carved Glasgo smile of Ledger's Joker was a fresh take on the signature design element of the original Joker's permanent smile. While Phoenix's Joker done make up to reference the OG look, its efforts to root that Joker in a very grounded reality resulted in a disregard for the Joker's chemical dowsing origin. However, I would argue it did something with the concept of a metaphorical permanent disfigurement that I think was truly unique. But we'll get into that later. Let's look more into Ledger's Joker smile first.
How about a lie? You want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker. Well, you look nervous. Is it the scars? You want to know how I got them? Come here. Hey. Look at me. So I had a wife. She was beautiful. Like you. It's a funny world we live in. Speaking of which, you know how I got these scars?
No, but I know how you got these.
Do you want to know how he got those scars? Sure. Will we ever know? Never. This was the brilliance of the way that Nolan portrayed this version of the Joker. It took the idea of the permanent smile, the idea of a facial disfiguration, and much like the rest of Nolan's Batverse, he roots it in a plausible reality. Instead of opting for a chemically induced disfigurement and the classical Joker rictus grin, Nolan opts for a more viscerally disturbing Glasgo smile that is lacerated on the Joker's physiognomy. And this Glasgo smile becomes a running joke that actually manages to glorify the infamous line from The Killing Joke. The origins of Heath Ledger's Joker is multiple choice. The origins of those scars are multiple choice. The origin of that smile, multiple choice. That is, until another Joker came along and attempted to answer the question that should never be answered. Spoiler alert for any of you that might not have seen Joker Folie A Deux. In the ending, a certain Arkham patient ends up shanking Arthur Fleck after Arthur had confessed his crimes and admitted that the Joker persona of his was just a fantasy. And surprise, surprise, that patient ends up carving a pair of scars onto the sides of his face, implying that this enigmatic figure will be the real Joker. But not just any real Joker. Ledgers, Joker. Okay, to be fair, it's apparent that Todd Phillips' Jokerverse and Nolan's Batverse are not connected, as certain events shared by the two universes do not chronologically overlap. And obviously, the representations of certain characters are quite contradictory. But the fact that there's even an implied connection is such a disappointing creative decision. It's disappointing for two main reasons. Firstly, even the implied connection to Ledger's Joker indirectly cracks the mystique of Ledger's Joker and the multiple-choice functional symbolism of his scars. But secondly, and more significantly, the Phoenix Joker, when he finally got his smile, his true smile, it not only significantly distinguished this Joker from the pantheon of live-action Jokers that came before him, in particular Ledger's Joker, whose shadow would be difficult to escape for any follow-up act. But also, the way that Phoenix Joker gets a smile actually paid tribute to the original Joker origin story in a unique way. So let's delve into it. Arthur Fleck's laughing disease, which is a real condition known as the pseudobulbar effect that is commonly triggered by traumatic brain injury, is an involuntary response that is triggered by emotional stimulus, and in the case of Arthur, was often expressed with what seemed to be a deep sorrow. Ever heard the cliche of the tears of a clown? Well, Arthur's laughter was like the cries of a clown. Throughout the first Joker movie, Arthur's pseudobulbar laugh is triggered at awkward, inappropriate, and dangerous moments. And in the final act, in a disturbingly sinister scene where talk show host Murray Franklin is shot on live television, the man who is seemingly no longer Arthur Fleck stares delightfully at the dead, bloody corpse of his victim, then releases what seems to be his true laughter while wearing what might be his true face. But what happens after this scene, in a subsequent sequence that would introduce the new Joker's iconic smile, in what I believe to be one of the most brilliant character design choices ever made, an accident occurs. Or should I say, two accidents, one in universe and one out. Because as it turns out, in this scene where the Joker is bleeding from a car accident and takes his own blood to paint on his iconic smile, director Todd Phillips originally wanted his Joker to carve scars on the sides of his face. Yup, a la Ledger Joker. Now, I don't know if Todd actually wanted to establish his Joker as the origin story of Ledger's Joker, or if he just liked the idea of a lacerated Glasgo grin as a design concept that fit in his overall vision. But I feel that, had he had his way, it would have cheapened the uniqueness of what eventually became his masterpiece final act. Fortunately, Christopher Nolan apparently requested Warner Brothers to not allow Phillips to go ahead with his original creative decision. Todd Phillips' compromise was the blood-painted smile, which by accident distinguished his Joker's design as truly unique from all other Jokers. It was symbolically fitting, and, in my opinion, made his first Joker movie one of the greatest Elseworld comic book character interpretations ever. I guess entire essays could be written about what the symbolism of this ritualistic ballet, like self-baptism by blood, could mean. It's one of those things that has a visual poeticism to it, but it isn't a vague, abstract kind of thing either. I love the irony that the original Joker origins has him become the Joker by being submerged in a pool of chemicals, which is how he becomes disfigured and insane, and also what sets his permanent rictus grin. But Arthur Fleck becomes the Joker, not by falling into a vat of chemicals, but by getting off his meds, getting off the chemicals that are supposed to control and contain whatever instability is embedded within him already. And his rictus grin, his permanent smile, isn't an outer disfigurement. It's an internal disfigurement. It's literally in his blood. Arthur Fleck's bloodstream was his version of a vat of chemicals. In this masterful scene where he takes his own blood, something from inside him that supplants the fake face paint that's on the outside is the perfect symbolic smile to define a character that was afflicted with an inner madness that was just waiting to assert itself on the outside. A lot of purists hate lore-breaking reinterpretations of classic characters. But I don't mind it, so long as any reinterpretations do something unique with the source material. I find Elseworlds and what-ifs and retcons real interesting. I mean, these alterations and hypotheticals happen all the time in the comics, so I'm not sure why it's so taboo for films to do the same. But particularly in the case of character design changes, that's definitely a standard trope of the superhero genre. Ledgers and Phoenixes' Jokers were two character design reinterpretations that deviated from the source material, but, in my opinion, served the internal logic that governed those characters. When I saw Folie A Deux, I honestly didn't hate it as much as the internet does, but I didn't love it either. It's a film that I think, had it not been associated with the Joker character, and was not a sequel to its surprise hit prequel, would actually be a unique and interesting film for what it is. Unfortunately, it's carrying the stigma of its associations. With that said, when I got to the ending of the film, and I saw in the blurry background what looked like a guy carving his own face, I wasn't sure if that was what was happening at first. But when I saw confirmation online that that is exactly what happened, what little defense I could express for the film was soured. Because I thought, at the very least, I could reason that the film was enclosed in its own little isolated universe, embellished by whatever subtle genius or artsy-fartsy pomp that the cinephiles might argue is the film's hidden brilliance. But to me, it would stand as its own distinct Elseworld, a separate pocket reality that within its parameter could experiment with the conventions of an existing modern mythology. But the moment that this art house experimental take on the Joker tried to connect itself to the Joker of one of the most applauded blockbuster action franchises that ever was, the Dark Knight trilogy and its legendary Joker, and I got real confused. Is Folie A Deux trying to make a distinguished work of art? Or is it trying to be an installation to a franchise? This is a question that I'll continue exploring in a part 2 to this video. I'd like to dive further into the implications of this controversial and complicated design choice regarding these two iconic smiles. But for now, if you've gotten this far in the video, thanks for sticking around, and hope you'll check in on the next one. But before I sign off, I'd just like to say, just in case it's coming across this way, I don't mean to be insensitive to the subject of mental illness. The Joker movie really made me feel sorry for Arthur and his condition. And this character study made me mindful of those that may be haunted by such afflictions. Which is also why I've got mixed feelings about the Joker sequel we got, and the Joker sequel that I, and probably a lot of other fans probably would have preferred, which is a more comic booky one. But when I think about it, turning Arthur into a more comic-accurate Joker would have cheapened the raw humanity that was captured in the first Joker. But then on the other hand, the ending of Folie A Deux is such a heartbreaking conclusion for a character that was dealt the worst cards in life. A lot of us were cheering for his vindication, because his villainy was entwined with his victimhood.
I have a condition.
I'll tell you what you have, asshole. We got a kicker, huh? Hey, hold him steady, hold him steady. Stay down, freak.
So, clearly, there's a reality out there that is nothing like the movies. How much of the Joker films are representative of that reality, I don't really know. But despite the controversy surrounding these films, I can say one thing that these films have done for me. They've opened my awareness to the particular members of the society I live in that do suffer from mental conditions. And I don't want to be ignorant of them. They're people like anyone else. They have their own virtues and vices. I mean, I am no Batman. I'm not going to pretend that I don't get intimidated by people that seem a little unpredictable to me. But when I say that, I mean that's all people in general. I mean I get intimidated by all sorts of personalities I'm not familiar with. But understanding what others go through, where they might be coming from, is, at least for now, a step towards understanding, accommodation, and compassion.
I want to see the real you.